UUCM. Our opening song for today and our campfire-like setting are in honor of the annual UUCM Campout that is at this very moment being held at the Plumas Eureka State Park by about 30 of our members and friends and their families, including Reverend Kevin Tarsa. So Kumbaya, although the details of its origin are contested, is widely believed to be derived from the Gullah Geechee. It's a Creole language spoken by formerly enslaved people of African descent. It's thought to, it's pretty much agreed upon that it is a version of the words "come by here." They say "ya" in here, as for here down there. So since its beginnings, the song Kumbaya has been used as a spiritual, a sung prayer. It was a folk anthem in the 60s and a favorite campfire song sung at thousands of summer camps. Unfortunately, it seems to have gotten stuck in a rut as a shortcut for a sarcastic criticism of a consensus or a compromise that implies a cockeyed optimism, right? Kumbaya moments and all that. Well, anyway, for today, it was chosen very non-ironically as a greeting, as a welcome, as a call to gather. May it also serve that as a reminder that in our community at any time, but especially when we find ourselves gathered together, there are those of us who are happy or sad, struggling, scared, curious, feeling any number of ways. So with that in mind, let's sing it through again with feeling. And if it feels more comfortable for you to sing Lord as it was originally created, you are welcome to. You can sing Lord, you can sing Friends. Suit yourself. Let's sing. Up and down service for me. I'm going to invite you right now to turn to your neighbors and greet each other, whether you meet as old friends or new acquaintances.
morning. Each week, we begin our service by acknowledging that the land on which we live, play, and worship has been the homeland of others for thousands of years. In our service today, we are going to be engaging literally and metaphorically with fire, playing with fire, so to speak. And we remember that fire is integral to the lives of Indigenous people everywhere. It is used to clear areas for crops and travel, and to manage the land for specific species of plants and animals. It's a tool that promotes ecological diversity and reduces risk of catastrophic wildfires. It can be viewed as medicine. When you prescribe it, you're getting the right dose to maintain the ecosystem. These practices that go back thousands of years stem from the view that humans are a part of the natural world, living on and with the earth as stewards, protectors, cultivators, and kin. As the Navajo Rancheria Nisenan tribe moves forward in reclaiming some of its homelands, their view of true conservation means humans returning to the land, merging ancient wisdom and modern environmentally friendly technology. They have spelled out a process that includes remembering, reimagining, and revitalizing to work toward this goal. Their view is that when tribal practices and values meet resistance from rigid policies and regulations, there is an opportunity for collaboration, systemic change, and deep healing. The black oak acorns that Beth is going to place on the altar, while not dependent upon fire to grow, benefited from fires set each year to ensure a hardy crop. May they remind us that restoration of the land and restoration of the Nisenan people are inseparable. And may we as a community support the tribe in whatever ways we can, under their guidance and at their request.
Lighting of the Chalice, Our Sacred Fire by Elizabeth Harding. People have always known that fire was special. Long, long ago, before people made matches or candles or even made houses, people knew that fire was special. There was the great fire in the sky, the sun, which made the earth warm and made night into day. And there were the smaller fires that people made, fires that cooked their food and kept them warm, fires that brought them light. People honored the fires because fire was special. Fire was more than human. Fire has power. It can create and it can destroy. It can bring light and it can burn. Fire can be wonderful and fire can be terrible. We have to be careful with fire. And so people thought that fire was something sacred and holy. Some people even worshiped fire and said that fire was a deity, like a goddess or a god. Other people said fire wasn't actually the deity, but just meant that the deity was there. No matter what they believed, people all over the world gave fire a special place in their religions. They had fires in their homes, of course, to cook food and keep warm, and they also had sacred fires in their temples. They set sacred lamps on their altars, and they lit sacred bonfires outside on the hilltops and in the groves. They placed sacred torches near the graves of those who died. We still do this today. In Washington, D.C., near the tomb of the unknown soldier, burns an eternal flame that never goes out. In churches at Christmas time, many Christians light 4 candles on an Advent wreath. During the 8 days of Hanukkah, Jews light the 8 candles of the menorah. At Diwali, Hindus set small lamps all around the house. And when Unitarian Universalists gather, we light a chalice. This is our sacred fire.
And some of that fire we will share with our children for their chalice on their altar as they go off to Kids Connection this week with not singing, but a special Camp Out inspired musical treat from Andy Dooley Miller. Well, good morning, all, and welcome to the Sunday service at the Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains in Grass Valley, California. Whether you're here in the room, out there on Zoom, or watching from a later date on our YouTube channel. My name is Beth Karow, and Cheryl Morris and I are today's worship associates. Toby Thomas Rose is our music director. We have a great AV team, including Eileen Hale as Zoom host. And in preparation for deepening into our sacred moments together and in respect for each other, please silence your cell phones at this time if you've not already done so. And also in preparation for our time together, I want to give a gentle heads up that today's service has been crafted largely around the theme of fire, and there will be images and words to that effect. If you find yourself in an uncomfortable place and you feel like you might need support, don't hesitate to ask for help. Helpers abound here at UUCM. Well, it's been a long, hot summer, and last month was the planet's hottest month on record. With a warming planet, human activity, and aging power grids, bigger and hotter wildfires are also at historic levels. Our wildfire season arrives earlier and lasts longer. Today, many fires are burning all over the West, and the Park Fire, spanning 4 of California's counties, is currently at 51% containment and being held within its footprints of approximately 429,263 acres. That's huge. 429,263 acres. In the last 10 years, Butte, our immediate neighbor to the west, and Plumas, Tehama, Lake, and Napa counties have all seen more or less than half of their lands burned in wildfire. Literally, as I was writing these words on Friday, these very words that I'm saying, a fire was started in Grass Valley and burned the Sierra Motorsports business and 1.5 acres surrounding it. So the threat is real, really, really real. And while we've been blessed with a relatively good fire season or so far these past years, no one denies that our luck may change at any moment. We might be next. Living with that very real fear of fire can be hard on our mental, spiritual, and physical health. Having resources such as the app Watch Duty with its maps and stats and constantly updating information, it's super helpful, but it can also be super stressful as we monitor status and try to plan for the unknown. Sheesh, no wonder I feel fried all the time. And as I was writing that part of the service and typed the word fried, the fingers on my right dominant hand did what they often do and sneak ahead from the left and changed fried to fired. Exactly. So somehow that seemed like the perfect segue to look at the three words that also often get jumbled when I type them, usually in the context of fire, but also applicable in lots of other ways. Scared, scarred, and sacred. Same letters, different words, with very different meanings, but intertwined. Soon, we'll have the opportunity to hear from some of our fellow congregants, perhaps yourself, in a fireside chat, as we share stories of being scared by or scarred by, or how we connect with the sacred in fire. And later, we'll be offering a simple ritual that encompasses these concepts as well. First, though, I want to briefly mention smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Smoke changes the way our air looks. It makes us notice the sky. It doesn't look right or smell right. It carries with it particulate matter, the tiny remnants of trees, of tires, of the materials that make homes for all kinds of living beings. And when we smell that smoke, our brains are hardwired to respond to it by running away. All kinds of stress hormones are released into our bloodstream to help us escape. But thanks to some really great modern tools like radar and drones and cell phones and apps like Watch Duty that I mentioned before, we know that sometimes the smoke that we're seeing and breathing is from far enough away that we know in our minds that we're not in immediate danger, but our bodies, they don't get that same message. And trying to carry on with life as usual in the midst of it can be super challenging. We're getting the signals to get out, but we can also get really foggy and just want to curl up like in a pillow fort, put the blankets over our heads and fall asleep. We might be obsessively checking our phones, seeking updates, even as we dread what we might learn. And Siobhan mentioned that when you do smell that smoke, even if you know it's from a fire far away, there's the added stress of, well, if there's a close fire, will I know? Because I'm smelling a far fire, will I smell the close fire? So there's a lot of stress. And I'm not sure what to do. I don't have all the answers about that. I'm sorry if you came for that. Hopefully by now you know me well enough and I'm not gonna give you those answers. I mean, every person, every situation, every fire has so many variables, and there's no one right way to be when faced with wildfires. But there are some tools. And one of the first and best responses to stress, like the stress posed by the smell of smoke and the danger of fire, is breathing. Besides taking in the elements essential to life, breathing can also simultaneously stimulate and soothe the vagus nerve, which widely controls our stress response. There's a number of tried and true ways of breathing to reduce stress and boost our body's own innate ability to relax, heal, and focus. And I'm gonna remind you of a few right now. I invite you to try them along with me, and keep in mind, you really can't do it wrong. All breath is good breath, and it definitely beats the alternative, not breathing. And by the way, shallow, restricted, clenched body breathing is really close to not breathing at all. So first, something Reverend Kevin taught me, and maybe you guys know this too, a vigorous, quick, two-part inhale through the nose, followed by a long, strong exhale, like a big sigh. I find myself doing this a lot. Feel free to keep going, but probably not nearly enough. So let's do it together. Awesome. Now, humming. When we close our lips and make sound, we create vibrations in our vocal cords that stimulate the vagus nerve, which runs from the base of our brain to our belly, and it touches and interacts with all of our major organs along the way. So stimulating our vagus nerve activates our parasympathetic nervous system, the part of us that is in charge of resting, digesting, and restoring. It's like our own version of a cat's purr. It's almost impossible. This is cool, I learned this. It's almost impossible to have thoughts while humming. So if you're someone with a monkey mind that doesn't quit, maybe you just need to hold your back teeth and your lips together while making the sound And during the ritual part of the service, while Toby plays, you might want to hum along. Similar to humming is chanting Om. It's an ancient tradition, mostly for the Hindus, but also practiced by Buddhists as well. It has a vibration of 432 hertz, which is the frequency found in every matter in the universe. Quantum physics, now this is really science, it's woo-woo, but it is science. Quantum physics tells us that in the beginning of the universe, there was nothing except sound vibration, and the rest of the world was created from this. So it's similar to humming, but there's an open mouth component to it. And it's generally a circular sound consisting of the blending of 3 sounds: ah, oh, and And since the sound is circular with no beginning or end, I prefer to think of it, maybe this is sacrilegious, not as Om, but Mom. Calling out for, naming, honoring the universal mother. Mom. Mom. Now, there are whole services built around that chanting. We're not going to do that, but try it at home. Lastly, my favorite. It's a version of a yoga breath called, appropriately enough, breath of fire. And if we do it together, it's kind of hilariously medicinal. It's a repetition of a quick, short ha coming from your belly. It sounds like laughing, which it is. I mean, it's fake at first, but if we do it long enough, well, let's just try it. Ha, 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 Oh, it worked for me. Oh, that feels so much better. It's free. It's easy. You don't have to look for it in your purse or in your medicine cabinet. It's always accessible. It doesn't even have to go in your go bag. It's always accessible as a good first response. And it can be a really helpful tool to remember when things get scary or stressful. And another helpful tool, very helpful, is community. Being a part of something larger than oneself. Feeling useful, feeling supported. There are so many opportunities to tap into community here at UUCM in groups small and large. Recently, within the past few years, Martha Turner and Ruth Edwards reactivated our fire clusters by using mapping from the, the zones, that Nevada County zones, and mapping them with our people, separating them into fire clusters. And, they saw a need for that updating, and they began a program, or the program was already in effect. They revitalized the program, where members and friends, and it's totally voluntary, but based on where you live, you are sectioned into fire clusters related to the zones, the fire evacuation zones. And as she facilitates our fireside chat, Cheryl Ritchie will tell us more about UUCM's fire clusters.
So we're having a fireside chat. But before we get started, I want to do a poll just so we can all see what type of experiences those of us in the room and on Zoom have had with fire. I'm going to start with 36 years ago. How many people were here or went through the 49er fire? Wow. Look at this. The 49er fire started on September 11th, 1988. It burned for 6 days. Over 30,000 acres, 300 residences, 300 dwellings were lost. It was a massive, massive fire. The last really big fire we've had. I'm so surprised how many people were here for that. And right now we're just kind of getting a feel for the fire experiences in the room. And later I'll ask you if you want to share any of those experiences. How many people have directly experienced or had loved ones who have experienced devastation from fire? Wow. Wow. And how many people here have had a mandatory evacuation or been in a go zone? And how many people have experienced an evacuation? Wow. So fire is part of who we are and where we live. So if anyone who has raised your hand here for any of these questions would be willing to share briefly for our fireside chat how these experiences have affected you. Just some ideas. Are you more cautious now about the potential for fire? Are you better prepared? Have you moved because of your fire experience? Have you voted for higher taxes to improve the firefighting capabilities of our region? Just anything that might come to you that you briefly would want to share with the group about the experiences that you have had with fire. And I'll walk around with the mic, or Cheryl will start, and then we'll walk around with the mic for those of others who might want to share. And then those of you on Zoom, if you raise your hand for sharing, we'll catch you as part of the fireside chat as well. Cheryl?
Okay, what I want to share, we've all seen pictures. Every year when there's fires, we see pictures of people going through the rubble of their homes, trying to see if there's anything to salvage. I was one of those people because my parents lost their home. This was in the 80s, so they were probably about the age I am now. And of course, I thought they were ancient. I thought they were these frail old people. They were actually both burned during the fire. So I took a leave from work and went down and stayed in a hotel and divided my time between visiting my parents and first going through the rubble of their home and then dealing with all the insurance and the 101 things that you have to deal with. So amazingly, and these are very special to me, if you were wondering what these little guys were, these survived the fire. They're ceramic. They probably did not fall from a great height. They just kind of landed. They're to me, they're more beautiful. They're charred in interesting ways. This was just a little inexpensive statue that my parents had. I never paid it too much attention, but now to me it's really quite priceless. And what I learned from the experience, number one, my parents were not so frail. They were determined to get better and heal and go on with their lives, which they did. I also discovered that I could deal with a lot more than I would have expected. And I also found, I mean, it's a cliche. Everybody says it when their house burns down. Well, they're just things. And it's true, they are just things. But still, some of them are things that you grieve the loss of, and then you're very grateful for anything that does survive. Yeah.
Anybody else want to talk about their fire experience? Marilyn. Let me hold this for you and you can speak into it.
Many years ago, I was a young married couple with my husband, Leo Winters, and we had a home that we had built in La Tuna Canyon in the San Fernando Valley, and a fire broke out right there on La Tuna Canyon, and we had to evacuate, and leave the house and so on. So everything finally was okay at the end, but it was very, very serious. And then, not very long ago, maybe within a year recently, another fire broke out in that area on La Tuna Canyon in San Fernando Valley. So we lived through that one, and then of course we were very worried again. But it's a very frightening thing, and you leave, you quickly grab a few things, put them in your car, wherever you're going, and go, and that. So, and the memory stays with you forever and ever, But you're grateful that you made it and all was well, so you realize that it was frightening, but you were very fortunate to be able to get out and be safe.
So when I was a little girl growing up in Oklahoma, my mother was feeding my baby brother. He was in a high chair, and she was in her long flannel nightgown, and she bent over, and her nightgown got caught in this heater, and she caught on fire, and she started screaming and yelling and doing this wild dance. And fortunately, my father was like 5 minutes late for work. And she was running to the kitchen sink to get water to put out this fire. It never would have happened. So he picked her up and he threw her on the carpet and he rolled her over and over and over again. And she survived. And then my next fire was in San Francisco, and I had a guest who lit a candle and let it burn all the way down. And that fire resulted in a gorgeous new house for me. But both of these fires were internal. They didn't come from the outside in. They were kind of negligence or whatever. So I'm very, very cautious now.
Thank you. Taylor?
Shortly after the Paradise Fire, one of our neighbors who was a fire captain in the Bay Area convinced us all that we were not at all prepared. Our little neighborhood is fairly enclosed. It's off the beaten path, and he convinced us of the importance of banding together among ourselves and creating fire breaks all over the neighborhood. We cleared 13 feet on either side of one of our roads, which was a little less than a mile, but quite a lot. We rented a commercial chipper, and we pulled logs off people's property. We pulled brush. We pulled everything we could get off people's property and chipped it up. We created a fire council or a fire association that continues to this day, and we meet regularly to update our knowledge of fire preparedness and fire safety. During red flag periods, we get together and volunteer for overnight surveillance, monitoring of the community, including walking, using cars, ATVs, whatever it takes to get into the very rural areas of our little neighborhood. And we also have a buddy system. So if anyone becomes aware of an imminent fire threat, we contact our buddies and make sure that the most isolated and remote people are taken care of, either gotten out through evacuation or whatever it takes. They are alerted and their needs are addressed as quickly as we can.
Impressive. How many years has that been going on in your community? Since Paradise. Wow, impressive.
Sorry, we live up on Banner Mountain, and we have one-lane, two-way roads, and it's a long way down to the so we have some similar overlaps with Paradise in terms of getting out.
Thank you. Alan.
Let's see.
Hold that pretty close.
Got you. We moved here, whatever it was, 35 years ago. And after a couple of years, built a house that was sort of our dream house in many lovely ways in a nice neighborhood. Couldn't imagine being anywhere else, although it got the land seemed bigger every year and the maintenance was great. And then, of course, the last 5 or 6 years hit and had to make a decision. Do we want to still be there? Our road was narrow. We heard a fire chief saying maybe we wouldn't be able to rescue you and your little private road. At the same time, we had lovely people all around us, great neighbors. And it was probably one of the most difficult things we ever did was where our kids all grew up as well. And we decided to move into town. And we still think about that daily, that decision. And things went well. There were a number of logical reasons to do it, better access and so on, or as our children said, better internet access. That was, they really thought, okay, this is the best thing you could ever do. And there's a little bit of truth in that as well. And there was a stage when we were going back and forth about it, and not too long before we finally did move, when I was walking our dog and there was a chicken. And that was a hard experience for me to have my dog kill a chicken. Now the neighbors were decent about it. They knew that they shouldn't have had their chicken the way it was. It all went well. And the very next day, I guess it was wintry at the time. And so we had our wood stove, of course, which ruled us for 30 years. Lovely thing also to get rid of over time. And so I took the ashes out very wisely and created my own fire in front. And lo and behold, who came to rescue us was our neighbor whose chicken we just killed. So those are some of the memories, and they're still with us, and we still have friends in the old place, and we miss them.
Thank you, Alan. Somebody want to talk about the 49er fire? Dennis?
So yeah, my sister lived through the 49er fire in Rough and Ready. It burned up to her house. And subsequently, there's been a more recent fire down there that actually did burn that house. My sister had sold it. Actually, she had passed away, and my nieces owned it. So I came home from Marin to help her on the property. And I currently have a neighbor who lost a house in the 49er fire. But in my neck of the woods, I live on the corner of Ubat Road and 174. I have a firehouse half a mile away in one direction and 2 to 3 miles away the other. I've got a sign on a tree from Caltrans that shows the direction to the airport. So the airport is like, up on top of Banner. So I'm in great shape, but I've been attending and participating in the U-Bet Road Firewise community. And I'm supposed to be the captain of my road that goes through my property, Lost Lake Road, and Pearson Road, which is a dead end. But the greatest frustration I have is twofold. Number one, my neighbors. I have an absentee property owner to the north of me with 20 acres that is just absolute firebomb. And directly above him is a woman her name was Pearson, and she owns 11 acres. So that's 30 acres of pure fuel right behind me. And I've spent 30 years cutting and burning, and I've done 4 grants on my property. So my one neighbor built a fence all the way around her property. So I can't even walk down to her property and help her. She doesn't want to cut enough that she can see my house. The other, I've already mentioned the neighbors. My other frustration is myself. I mean, the administrative aspect, I don't live in U-Bet, it's 10 miles away. But so I only have so much time to do my defensible space. I only mowed half my pasture this year because I burned up 3 belts trying to do it. So now I got to get a different mower. So I have my own personal responsibility factor plus wanting to participate in the U-Bet Firewise community. So if you can participate in a Firewise community, jump in there.
Thank you, Dennis. We have someone on Zoom who'd like to share. Patricia?
Hi. I was in the evacuated during the Jones fire for 4 days. And I think for me, it was very scary. I had never been evacuated before. I never dealt with fire in that way. And no knowledge of whether my house was still there or not. It burned. I live off of Newtown Road in Nevada City, and it burned across the street from my neighborhood. And I think I was almost more worried about my garden than my house because that's my passion. And it was very scary, but I was so lucky because I came back and I actually had a garden left and my house was not touched at all. But my emotional state every time there is a fire nearby is definitely heightened and stressful. But again, I'm just so thankful that I was evacuated. The firemen did a great job. And I'm here to tell the story.
Thank you, Patricia. A couple more. Susan.
My first fire experience and evacuation was the Berkeley Hills fire, which was major. Actually, the police came around and knocked on doors, and the friends I was staying with had to leave. I had many artist friends who lost everything, their studios, their artwork. And so my experience recently here was the Bennett fire on Bennett Road, where I got the red alert, immediate evacuation. I'm very prepared. I was out the door in 3 minutes with my go bag, my laptop, my dog, most important, and a small bag of family pictures that I always keep during fire season in a bag. Ran out the door and realized my car was in the shop. So not only did I have to find a ride, I had told an elderly neighbor if there was ever an evacuation, grab your cat, your cell phone, throw it in the carrier, and I will take you out. So now I couldn't do that. I had to scramble to find a neighbor to take her. But the most amazing thing is that I had UU people and another friend texting me immediately, "Are you okay? You can stay here." And we didn't have our fire clusters in place as securely then. But yeah, it was quite an adventure.
Thank you, Susan. Sorry, I don't know your name. Rory?
First day of summer, 2008, Northern California was hit with thousands of lightning strikes. At my property in the little town of Washington, we were having a bunch of friends over and we were up on the bluff, and as that front came through, the lightning strikes were all around us. And we were hooting and hollering and thinking, oh, that's pretty cool, until the storm went through and we had 8 fires in the canyon. One was on the hillside right next to us. We did not evacuate. We decided to shelter in place because we were going to go down to the river. But for days, it was just amazing watching, back then it isn't like it is now. They didn't have the air support that they do now. And we had a triage group at the top of our property hiking in to go up to Scotchman Creek and fight the fire up there. Well, last year, Washington caught on fire again by a man, and the air support was amazing. I went over on Relief Hill Road and you could watch what they were doing. The VLATs, the very large water tankers, blocked north, south, east, and west, and then the little planes came in, but I was evacuated then too. Guess where I live now? Nevada City.
Thank you, Rory. Catherine can't help herself.
I was working at the hospitality house. We were making dinner just the other day when they evacuated us. We had prepared all of our food, had cooked some of it, and they said, everybody out, because we were right across the freeway from the fire that you were talking about earlier, the motorcycle place. And all the homeless people were watching the smoke and whatever, so anyway, we abandoned our dinner, and I think they got to go back in, and they had to finish making it themselves, I guess. I don't know. No, we were told to leave.
Wow. Yes, it's an everyday possibility here. I'm just going to wrap up with a public service announcement about our fire clusters. If anyone finds themselves overwhelmed by the risk of fire, I encourage you to find out more about your fire cluster and volunteer to organize a meeting. The information, motivation, and support you gain from talking about the burden we all share because of where we choose to live is lessened by the opportunity of sharing it with others in a similar situation. It's also a great way to get to know more about the UUCM people who live near you and to learn about the various personalities that come into play when planning for potentially stressful situations. Beth is in my fire cluster. Never seen her come to a meeting yet. I have personally benefited from our fire cluster in ways that I never would have been able to do on my own. Thank you all so much for your sharing. It's so helpful to hear the stories and experiences that others have had.
Thank you so much, Carol, for facilitating that. And thank you all for sharing your stories. I know there are more, and hopefully they can come out. Wow, that was really touching. Thank you. So we have a ritual most weeks that we call Joys and Sorrows. And it's probably familiar to most of you. It involves choosing a stone as a symbol of what we hold in our hearts, what is heaviest on our minds, or what is filling us with happiness. Then we place that stone into the bowl of water. The bowl itself, a symbol of the container that is this community. And the water, it's the flow of the earth, the universal solvent. As we imagine the ripples created by the rock as it enters the water, so might we imagine the ripples of caring that spread through our beloved UUCM community and on out into the world. So today, our familiar ritual will have a second part. As we come forth to place stones into the water, we'll also have the opportunity to take a match and hold it in the flame, but not the wick of our light from the chalice. You can hold it for a while and then drop it in the water. So Cheryl's going to demonstrate. As you approach the light, you might think of the match as a fear, a worry, anxiety, general or specific, something that scares you that may even be hard to name. And then as you approach the light of our sacred flame, you may choose to see it as the light of hope, of purification, of transformation. And then watch your fear burn. Imagine, if you will, the cremation, the release, and then allow the water to receive it all. Water, the solution. Water receives, dilutes, quenches, absorbs, and dissolves the fear. If coming forward is not possible for you today, you can ask a neighbor or Cheryl, Karow, and I to participate on your behalf. You're welcome to raise your hand. And it is in the circle, so obviously more than one person can be there at a time. Those of you online, please participate as you are willing and able with your own matches and water that Eileen talked to you about. When you've finished and you've returned to your seat, please consider humming along to the beautiful music, soothing your vagus nerve and keeping the time and space sacred for all of us together. On Claiming This Time for Renewal by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Though you have been warned and given plenty of explanations, reasons to do otherwise, You have persisted to claim a life of joy and justice, and to carve out this time for renewal of your own heart, despite the din demanding of your attention, luring you towards fear and cynicism. You persist with gratitude for this day, this life that has been given, this chance to begin again, despite all the forces of fragmentation, the disappointing ways we fail each other, fail ourselves. We must refuse to let grief undo us, or to let our dreams get lost along the way. In spite of all the evidence, we keep showing up at the edge of our own longing, and then we keep going, remembering this duty we have to life. In a greater sense, this duty we have to each other, our children, and their children. This hope that is also a choice we make, this promise we fight for, to persist in kindness, persevere in compassion, and prevail in a life that is bound entirely to love.
Our offerings each Sunday are an active and tangible expression of our UU value of generosity. Donations support all aspects of this church, as well as that of a community partner that shares our values. As we reflect upon the role that fire plays in our personal lives, our communities, and our environment, it's appropriate that our community partner this month is Sierra Streams Institute. They will receive 50% of today's offerings, and you're encouraged to visit their website if you also wish to donate to them directly. Sierra Streams Institute is a local watershed monitoring organization that promotes scientific knowledge and stewardship of Sierra Nevada watersheds through research, restoration, education, and community science. The slide will give you additional ways to give. Thank you for your generous gifts. In recognition of the interdependence of all things, we dedicate these gifts to the wise and careful tending of the earth and all creatures that dwell upon it. May we be guided by the past, thoughtful in the present, and hopeful for the future.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, for co-creating this service with me and for all those involved in the creation of this service. It really does take a village, and there are some of the people that we can thank for that. And then the next slide we'll have coming up, this is what's happening this week. I noticed that the Pride Family Potluck was canceled, unfortunately, but the Climate Lobby, the Parkinson Support Group, and Spirituality Sharing Circle are all meeting. And you can look for more information on our website. Oh, wait, sorry, go back. There you go. There's a new art show in the library. The reception is September 22nd, but go see Sandra's work today. It's hanging today. Also, circle lunch potlucks. There's one more before we start our suppers in the fall. So sign up on our website. And of course, our website is so good and so chock full of information, and it's actually very easy to navigate. So go check it out, uugrassvalley.org. Our closing song is Fire of Commitment, just 'cause, right? I mean, what else is it gonna be? Let's stand if you're willing and able and sing with gusto. You may remain standing or sit as you'd like for our closing words, Out of the Flames by Sarah Eileen Lawal.
Out of the flames of fear,
we rise with courage of our deepest convictions.
to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace.
Out of the flames of scrutiny,
We rise to proclaim our faith.
with hope to heal a fractured and hurting world.
Out of the flames of doubt,
We rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe.
of all there is and all that is yet to be.
Out of the flames of hate,
We rise with the force of love.
love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames we rise. And though we extinguish our chalice, we know that together we will carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. See you next Sunday, nurturing hope with agency and intention. And join us for refreshments if you're in the room. Goodbye to Zoom. Grab some tomatoes on your way out. I picked a whole bunch.